pending litigation meeting. I guess it was really technically supposed to be a non-meeting, but we had put it down for a non-public session at 4 o'clock today, and the woman in charge had to cancel to a sick child, so we'll have to reschedule that one. I kind of threw a loop into everything, but we're back in public session here, and I guess the first thing is to amend or approve the minutes from April 2004. I have a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from April 4th, 2013?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Next is the non-public session minutes of April 4th. Those are already been sealed and just require a signature. Sure. And we're on to public comments. Any public comments quickly? Yes, B.
Well, I read the minutes of the last Selectmen's meeting, and a letter was presented to combine the EMD position with the health officer. I have no problem with that, but the reason I'm EMD is because we asked and no one would take it. So I took it. I just thought it would be courtesy if they had planned it, they could have mentioned it to me. We have one more meeting on this project, May 7th, and when we get through with it, I will say adios, muchachos.
I agree with you, B. I think that was unfortunate, but I think, you know, I appreciate everything you've done for us in that category. And I think closing out that May 7th meeting, if you want to do that, and we'll move on from there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Anybody else? Public comments? Chair.
The last decision by the ZBA was case 2012-02. It was for lot V07, map V07, lot 123, published March 26th. I looked at this online and had some troubles with it, so I asked some other people who have some expertise in this to look at it, and they felt that there were some difficulties in the ruling relative to our zoning, and that in one sense it was an assault on our zoning, our 50-foot setback. So in order to review this, the selectmen need to, as a matter of fact tonight, because of the date, need to ask for a rehearing with the ZBA to at least have a look at this and have a discussion about it. You are the administrators of this, and it's up to you to honor your commitments with regard to this. I have a copy of the 677-2 that allows you to ask for a rehearing. There's no downside to ask for a rehearing. There's no cost to the town to have a rehearing or to request a rehearing. And if after reviewing the decision by the ZBA you have questions, I might recommend that you would have the town attorney have a look at it to see if he feels there's any issues with it. It is a rather interesting decision. So I'm going to give you a motion that I feel you should make, and you need to make it tonight, because if you don't, you won't get the rehearing. But that's a copy of the motion, and that's a copy of the of what requesting a rehearing looks like.
Well, Jerry, it's unfortunate this comes to us in the public comment section, and we haven't got an agenda item set aside here, and yet we've got a tight time frame and a need for a deadline that none of us knew existed. So without taking up a ton of time here, and just pointing out that I'm in my second year as a selectman, and there hasn't been any kind of a rehearing up to this point. What exactly is the rehearing
You did request a rehearing while you were a selectman. It was refused by the ZBA, so it never took place. It made this request for a rehearing, as I said, there's no downside to ask for a rehearing. I apologize that tonight is the last night you can do it, because it's a 30-day window. This is the first meeting you've had since it,
Right.
and it's the last time you can choose to do it. The ZBA can refuse to do the rehearing, and,
Actually, we have to do the rehearing. We may elect not to make any change.
yes, the last time they refused to have a rehearing, so they didn't have it. Then they have every right to do it this time. However, I might recommend that if the issue is at all confusing to you or you don't understand it, I might recommend that you would have your attorney have a look at it to see what the issues involved are. I feel it's an assault on the setback zoning issue, but someone else may have a different opinion. But there's no downside to asking for a rehearing. Tonight is the last night you can do that. The motion will just take a moment. I typed out the motion for you.
Mm-hmm. And not to get into a long, drawn-out response, but Andy, I'm assuming this is something you're familiar with?
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Andy may be familiar with the ZBA's ruling on this and may have a comment on it as well.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's why I asked him if he was familiar with it. So, thank you.
Do you have anything to add there?
It's up to the board if you guys would like to direct the ZBA to rehear this. I don't see a downside to doing that either. They certainly, it would give them the opportunity to look at their decision again, and they could decide that, you know, they don't want to relook at that. I mean, it's up to the board.
Frank?
We would have to, you know, in the request for rehearing, we would have to provide some rationale and basis on what in our reasoning was wrong.
That's part of the motion.
Okay.
You might read the motion.
I will. I just, is any other comments? You guys in favor of this motion? No reason to think otherwise. I'll just go back there and see what happens.
I presume that somebody.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Frank?
It would also presume that somebody, one of the three of you would be there, be able to articulate what.
We didn't have a person to attend. All right, well, anybody care to make that motion?
Well, I'll make the motion for a rehearing pursuant to RSA 677:2 of the Zoning Board of Adjustment case 2012-02, Robert Ruppel, variance concerning map V7, lot 123, on the grounds that the decision to grant the variance was based on contradictive reasoning and may have the effect of rendering Jackson zoning ordinance section 4.3.1.2 unenforceable.
A second on that?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. I'll give us some time to get up to speed on it.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Know more about you than this.
Appreciate that. Any other public comments? Yes.
Yes, Sarah Clemens. Last public comment, I asked if the select board would consider on a monthly basis indicating what lawsuits we had against us, who they were by, and how much it was costing us, and any totals that we could get so we could understand who was suing us, what the case was, and how much monies we're spending on it. As a taxpayer, I think that it's nice to know who in our...
I think we have that down, Sarah, on F under new business.
Okay,
We put you on the agenda.
thank you. Didn't see it?
Any other public comments? All right, hearing none, we'll go to the police report, Chief. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. We're definitely into the mud season now, but we took a report of a canine bite of a gentleman up a part of Dundee. We had a street sign that was stolen. We have an older gentleman who is now not really able to get around, and he needed some grocery items, so we went down to Grants and got him some of the items for him. We took a report of a stray cat, so our animal control officer went and took possession of that, caught it. We assisted the New Hampshire Co-op. They went around to a local motel to shut off the power. The Tahoe that had been in an accident went into the body shop. It's been repaired. It's flawless. You can't tell a thing. It's running great. We went to district court, and the gentleman that we'd arrested for operating extra suspension pled guilty. We took a report of a rather more serious assault that happened in a hotel, and so we're investigating that. A lady brought in a loose canine from Black Mountain Road, but we were able to get that back to the owner. We took a report of a rabid raccoon, and communicating with Fish and Game, they asked us to euthanize it, so we did. We're keeping an eye on 2 houses of citizens that are out of town on vacation, 2 false burglar alarms, a 911 hang-up at a motel. That was either, who knows, misdialed, child play, who knows. And we took several reports of overweight trucks on the roads. Now that the weight restrictions, we've been successful in finding the trucks, and in checking the registration forms, they've all been under them, so. Yep.
And the chief.
That's pretty straightforward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good.
Road agent, fire chief, report. All right, and then we'll go to building matters with Andy. Come on down. Ken doesn't.
I printed off the stuff that I had emailed you guys.
I like
Just
that paper.
Isn't that exciting? You know, I understand the town's running out of letterhead, so I tried to help. So, I mean, this is a list of what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, and I don't know that, you know, it's not as exciting as the police report, so, you know, I guess you guys can review that at your leisure. I see on our agenda items, we've got that town hall. I think it's town office renovations, and that's excuse me, moving along and looking nice. The paint fumes are lovely, you know. Francis Ave, that's moving along to the ZBA. I understand they're on the ZBA's agenda. The Black Mountain property, that's that landlocked parcel, that's headed to the ZBA as well. I've issued a couple of permits. They're on the list, and I gave you notes about those, but I had no specific concerns with either one of those permits. Yeah, if you have any questions, but I've met with the Mallet Corp. They have a couple of projects that they have planned, one at the restaurant and one for Madeline's, and I met with the fire inspector and we went over it with their contractor, and that seems to be on the right track. So I think everything's moving along smoothly.
Easy to post on the website, or
What?
on the I'm sorry, on the e-news.
We could
Yeah.
scan that and send it to them, and they could put that, they could add it to the.
Or I could send it as a PDF, if that would be
Yeah.
easier, and then they, you
You
know,
can scan that right over.
if that works for you guys, that's, yeah.
That way,
And
and you don't have to
we
type
could
it
easily
all.
put it on the town website as well if you wanted to
Okay,
forward it to,
sure.
Phil or I. This is building.
Andy's reports for the week, or for the last couple of weeks.
It's fascinating reading, it really is, you know,
I haven't
yeah,
done it in the past.
yeah,
It's
It doesn't cost anything to do it.
yeah.
So is the kitchen remodel for Joan and Phil Davies, is that over 10,000?
Yeah.
It is.
I don't think that matters though.
No. I was curious.
At some point, I think, do you have anything, Bill? At some point, I think we gotta do a work session to kind of nail down the process and kind of tidy things up and change it over to, you talked about restructuring the building permit.
Yeah, I think
itself.
it's time to clean up the building permit application and make it a little easier, because that's probably half of my time is dealing with questions about filling out a building permit application, so.
Well, of all the building permits we looked at when it, 9 months ago,
Yeah,
10 months
yeah.
ago, whatever it was that you supplied us with, and I can't remember if it was Barrington or where it was, but it seemed a little complicated. The town that had electrical project or plumbing project or full-on
Right, and I'd supply, so
construction
those were
project.
all items that, you know, Jerry had done, you know, he'd done some research and said,
Right.
this is what we should, you know, think about modeling our permit process over. But I agree, some of it, you know, maybe it's a little, we're getting into the minutia too much,
Right.
but.
Well, yeah, maybe, but at the same time, my vision is that, you know, number one, we get our selectmen's office staff removed from being in the middle of this. Here are the applications.
Right.
If you have any questions, here's the
Yeah,
phone number.
yeah.
Here's the email.
And I think that's what's happening now,
Right.
is that process seems to be moving along.
Well, that's
You know,
good, and that
yeah.
represents change,
Yeah.
because in the past, we've had that kind of be a pit stop, where
Right.
people would say, you know, can you get a hold of the building inspector for me?
Right.
Or can you relay information to me and act as my conduit? And
Right.
that's what I want to get away from.
I've been attempting to do that. I
Right.
give them, well, you need to talk with Andy because I don't like being in the middle, because I don't want to
Right.
misconstrue the information you've given me or
Right.
misrepresent Andy's response.
And I think that the right thing to do is have that be your response the minute any question comes out of the person's mouth.
Here you go.
So that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because it's not in your list of essential duties in your job descriptions, and you've got enough in there already. So that's kind of my hope with this whole thing. And so we do need to make a decision, and there might be stuff that's minutia, and I think at the same time, you know, we had a citizen in here last night, if you're putting a committee together, I want to be part of it, you know, is this something that needs to translate into the staff? I'd love to have the planning board's input, or offer them an opportunity to be a part of that process too. So, and there's no sense of urgency, but I think it'd behoove us to have somebody maybe contact Scott and see if he's got
Meeting with him next month, so.
ideas about, providing some people. I don't know if it's an ad hoc committee we want to create to take a look at this whole process and finalize our permitting and finalize the status of the inspector, code enforcement inspector.
It's up to you guys, but,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
however
right.
you want to handle it.
That seems to make sense to
that's-
move forward in unison. So maybe you can, if you can ask Scott to put that on the agenda and have a conversation around it.
Yeah. So if I keep you guys apprised of what's going on in.
I like that
This
format.
seemed like it's a good format, okay.
Yeah, that's
All right.
awesome. Is that what you?
It does,
All right.
yeah.
I like
I know
the writing and everything to that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And if you want me to forward it to E-News, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay.
So, all right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Have fun.
Bill. Mr. Knotweed.
If you want that on the website, you got to send it to me,
Okay.
okay? If I see it, when I see stuff in E-News, if it looks interesting, it gets on the website. If it doesn't look interesting, I don't do it. This doesn't sound like it looks interesting.
just want to keep people informed on what we're doing and stuff. I think that's.
The town passed an article in the warrant for $2,500 to spray knotweed along the sides of some of the scenic roads. I talked with Jay. We're talking now about somebody taking care of the permit and watching the guy when he comes to spray, which would be in August. Jay really doesn't have any interest in getting involved in it, and I went to the Conservation Commission, and it's town money, not Conservation Commission money, and they didn't seem excited about it, and I told both Jay and Larry that I'd be willing to keep an eye on this and get the permit signed. It would be a day of spraying in August, but somebody's got to go around with the people and say, these are the roads we want to spray. This is what we're looking at. And my poor little printers didn't like doing this many color things, but we've got some areas in Thornhill Road, a little bit here on Village Road, right? It's as you come across the bridge. Moody Farm Road is stretched in there. I'll tell you what, you flip the pages.
Come on.
You're not doing any better than I do. A section of Carter Notch up above Maroon Road. There's a little area down there just north of the
Castle
of Wentworth. And there's a little spot on Green Hill Road where the stream crosses.
How high up is that spot on Green Hill Road? Is that near Joanne and Alan's property?
Yeah, I think Joanne had mentioned that.
Yeah, that's why I asked. They had concerns.
Yeah, what they use, and it's the same as we used in the wetlands here. Habitat, it degrades quickly in water. Much different issue in terms of retention in the soil, but it's manageable. And if it gets mixed with anything, it'd be rodeo, which is also approved for wetlands. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's an issue. We're not asking for a wetlands permit. When they spray, the guy'd actually stand in the stream and spray towards the land rather than standing on the side of the bridge and spraying towards the water. Mm-hmm. And the state's been fine with that. I don't think we're going to have an issue.
What I'd like to get is that.
This is Green Hill Road where they're talking about. This is all knotweed in here, and I'm looking at it upside down. The stream comes under there. And there's some on both sides of the road.
And what I'd like to get is that in writing from the company that we're going to contract with, and show it to Alan and Joanne. They expressed that concern in the meeting. I talked to them after the meeting, and I'd like to show them that in writing to alleviate some of the concerns they have. Is that possible?
That should be in the permit.
Okay.
I mean, when the state sends us something, now I'm looking at DES permits from when I was on the Conservation Commission. They were quite specific about what you were allowed to do and not do, and when you could do it and all that sort of thing. I'm kind of thinking that this permitting process is very similar. If it's not, I can get something from the person who's going to do the application.
Well, and so I want an effort made to be able to show them something before that section of Green Hill Road is finalized on the schedule for spraying. Is that so I can get that, whether it's from the permit or the company?
Yeah, we send this in. We should get something from the state. The issue that we have is that they ask for 6 months to approve a permit. There's only one person in the state that looks at these things, so they fall behind. Right. If we wait 6 months, it'll be too late to spray. We'll have to do it next year.
It's what, August? Is that what you said?
Yeah, August, right after the plants have flowered.
Right. So we've got plenty of time. I mean,
oh, yeah.
We don't have to wait for the state. I mean, if there's somebody else that's got that kind of documentation that we can show them in lay terms and alleviate some of their concerns.
I can send you something.
From the company?
It's actually from one of the western states, I think Washington, where they did experiments with habitat and, in terms of roadside spraying. Now, what they were doing was spraying everything, They wanted a clean shoulder. We're only spraying knotweed.
I mean, you
But
were at the meeting and you
Yes.
heard their
Yeah.
concerns, so
Yeah.
if there's something that you can provide me with,
Yeah, I think I can put something together, and the people doing the spraying probably have something. I'll just ask
Right.
for it. Yeah,
okay, so I guess I'm asking you to do it.
yeah, it shouldn't be
If that's
an issue.
possible, that would be appreciated.
Yeah. I brought some of that stuff to the Conservation Commission because I'd expected similar kinds of questions. What I need is a signature on this from the, I'm told that I only need the chairman's signature. Right there. Applicant.
Phil, can I get a copy of that for our records here at the town office?
I can leave this
Okay.
when they,
Probably not a bad idea. So the application is, you're asking us to sign the application and submit that, and then it may be 6 months, but you're...
oh yeah, it's got to be sooner, or we're doing it next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're past that
Right.
deadline.
Yeah,
So this gets us in line anyway.
yeah.
So take a motion for that.
I move we go ahead and sign the permit application to spray for knotweed that we're going to submit to the state.
Second.
All those in favor?
The people doing the spraying have to have some things that they have to fill in. Then it'll go to the state. When they send it to the state, I'll ask them for another copy. But I can leave you with this one, which is what, I mean, it won't have been signed, but that's what they've signed. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks for doing that.
I asked Mike to come back in and see if he might be able to shed some light on that whole zoning board of adjustment re-hearing, since he's familiar with the property.
Sure.
Can you come back up?
Sure.
Thanks. I just am wondering just what the concern is up there and what was approved and what do some people have an issue with that maybe shouldn't have been approved, or obviously there are opinions involved here.
Right.
What do you know about that?
Well,
What's the issue?
So I reviewed the building permit application and suggested that because it's the proposed construction was inside the setback, that the selectmen shouldn't approve the building permit.
Right.
So we didn't, and I think it was the right decisions, but so they went forward and as their right to get a variance, and one was granted to them. I think that the town's concerns should be, the setback from the road. This proposed building is very close to the road. And so there's potential snow removal issues, and I think the zoning board probably looked at potential sightline issues with adding this structure close to the road. I would presume that they did. But I also see that there is some potential liability for the town in handling snow removal and, road cleanup, that, this building is going to be close enough to the road where it could be potentially impacted by the town, and so I would think that at least that it would be in the town's best interest to seek a waiver from any potential damage that the town could cause to the structure just in doing regular snow removal. In Jackson's ordinances, I think we all know, we don't just deal with encroachment into the setback as a two-dimensional thing. We deal with 3 dimensions, which is not like most towns. And I think Jackson's ordinance was enacted to protect views. And I'm not sure that this structure, and I think probably the ZBA addressed it, what they felt that it wasn't going to impact anybody's view. But I think that, I don't think it would be a bad decision for the select board to at least, walk through with the zoning board the decision process,
The setback, is it a corner lot? Was this
It is a corner lot, yes,
The
yeah.
setback's 50 feet.
It is,
And
yeah.
how far, and how far into the setback is the?
Well, I think this, again, I'm going from memory, I think this building is within 10 feet of that line. so I think it's pretty close.
Within
Frank?
10 feet of the road?
Yeah, within 10 feet of that, inside, it's inside that setback by 10 feet, yeah.
So it's 40
Is
feet
that,
from the road.
is that correct,
No,
Frank?
No.
It's,
It would be, well, first, the pavement, the travelway of the road is about 10 feet or so in from the right-of-way for the road, the lot line. But the variance that was granted allows them to go within 10 feet of the lot line. So that's roughly somewhere like 15 to 20 feet from the pavement. There were a number of conditions applied, there were a number of conditions that were included with the variance that they have to comply with. We mentioned in the variance that decision that they might be required by the town for a bond if they're excavating that close to the roadway. I don't think we specifically considered the question of liability, and that, you know, that could be something that is addressed. Now that the rehearing, the request for a rehearing is basically an abutter or the selectmen telling the ZBA, well, we think you got this wrong. You missed this, or this among the 5 criteria that we must consider in granting variance. So I would presume when we have the rehearing, or when the application for a rehearing is filed, you would be articulating which of those 5 criteria we got wrong, or that we made findings on to come to the decision to grant the variance.
Oh, Jerry's got a question.
I'm sorry.
Brought this up.
I would think that in response to Frank's, that would be something your town attorney could point out to you, because it is sort of complicated. But I would say that the town adopted the 50-foot setback at a special town meeting, which is quite rare, in 1974 in December. And Hampshire Ridge, or Jackson Highlands, was pointed out as the basis for adopting the 50-foot setback, because as part of the deed restrictions there, they included a 50-foot setback. The town mirrored that. So that is the very place where the town used as a mirror for adopting its 50-foot setback. The corner lot, the citing of the ZBA was hardship, which would point out, which would seem to think that having a garage or not having a garage is a hardship, and that there was no other site on the lot to situate the garage. There's plenty of other sites to situate the garage on that site. But again, these are things that I would think that your town attorney could review and make a recommendation for you.
Well, he doesn't get nearly enough work out of us right now, so maybe
Yeah.
we can get him busy and doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Could we also add, I mean, if you want to pursue it, again, the request for rehearing has to be filed within 30 days. But if once we have a rehearing and then make a decision as to whether or not we want to we made an error or want to change anything, then you have to, what I'm trying to say is, you must make the request for a rehearing, have the rehearing, and then only at that point could you take further steps of suing or going to the court and suing the ZBA. So the request for a rehearing is a necessary step before taking further legal action. That's one reason why you might want to involve the town council to articulate, what are the arguments, what are the things that we got wrong in our deliberations and findings.
Okay.
So you kind of over there nodding your head, I mean, a 50-foot setback, you've been involved with doing some inspection work around here, involved with our zoning ordinance for a
Yeah.
number of years. How often did we allow for variances to, I mean, I can remember
Yeah.
a deck last year where we talked about that was
Correct.
actually 85 feet or
Yeah.
something off of the setback, and there was concern it was within 50 feet, and it wasn't even visible from the road, and yet here we are having something 10
Right.
feet into the setback. But is
See,
this do we have a history of approving this kind of?
of course, we've never approved a building permit that's inside the setback. It would have to go to the ZBA.
Right.
I can think of one where an applicant misrepresented their setback, and they're actually headed to the ZBA now for another issue. But we have these rules for a reason, and we can't, the board or the building inspector can't approve anything other than what the rules say we're allowed to do.
Right.
And so encroachment in the setback, it's not allowed, so we can't approve the building permit. It goes to the ZBA if the applicant so chooses. Sometimes people will say, okay, yeah, you're right, we're inside the setback, we can't build there.
So you're familiar with the lot. Are you feeling like there are other areas to put the garage that as well on the lot?
There are other, I think probably there are other areas that they could pursue, so I think it's, right, yeah. And, I mean, if the, when's the 30-day window expire?
Today.
Today, is it? Tomorrow? I'm willing to relook at this based on the 5 criteria that the ZBA, which that's not my jurisdiction, but for the selectmen, I would relook at this and say, here's where I think the ZBA may have erred, and at least then we have something that you can move forward.
That'd be great.
So, and I can do that tonight.
I just don't see a precedent here that we get locked into if it's not something we really.
Well, and so the ZBA is not a precedent-setting board, so I mean, they can rule however they rule. Even.
That's not entirely true.
Well.
But what happens
Yeah.
if the next person says you approve this?
It becomes harder. It becomes harder to argue when you say you allowed Mr. Smith to do it. Why can't I? But the state, LGC will tell you that the ZBA is not a precedent-setting board. They can rule however they rule.
Sure.
So, but I'd be willing to take a look at it and fire you guys off an email and say, I think that maybe it makes sense to relook at it.
Sure.
Thanks, Andy. And thanks
Yeah,
for coming back.
absolutely.
This is in response to Bob's question, have they ever faced this before? You faced this not too long ago when a person that wanted to build a shed, a rain shedding roof over his doorway. And Andy recommended that it be not allowed because it was several inches into the setback of a road. The road was non-existent and was on a private
It was in a private development with no setback requirements.
right. And he recommended that it not be approved. So, I mean, there's another, same situation, but something far less onerous.
Right.
The guy couldn't build his roof anywhere else but there.
Right.
This fellow had an opportunity to build his garage wherever he wanted to go on the land within the setbacks.
And that's our goal, get some real consistent understanding here of our zoning and our building code enforcement process, so that it's not to say that it is inconsistent.
But again, I would highly recommend that you have your attorney look at it,
All right.
that you go ahead and make the request formally for the rehearing, and then have your attorney point out whatever deficiencies he feels there may or may not be.
Thank you. And we did do that. The request for rehearing has been formalized, so.
I believe it needs to be sent to the ZBA.
Okay.
Airplane right now.
Airplane. Just record it.
Ella's holding
Record
that
now.
mail right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But, the request for the rehearing really needs to have
It does.
some language about
yeah.
what.
Correct. You can't just say, we want to have a rehearing. It has to spell out. So, I mean, it has to
Yeah,
happen.
he did have that note.
Okay, good. All right.
Thank you very much, everybody. Valley Vision. Moving down, Kyle, thanks for your completion. I know Mike, kind of.
Hi, I'm Bill.
Bill, Sam.
Hi, Bill. Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Hey, Mike. Yeah.
Edmonds.
All right, Jim, what do you got for us?
Well, actually, I guess I'll introduce myself. Mike Tigagori of Conway Selectmen. This is Bill Edmonds, the station manager at Valley Vision. I guess what we have for you is really what do you guys want us here for? We heard about the town meeting and the fact that somebody had made a motion to add some dollars into your budget for some airing some stuff onto Valley Vision. As you know, as the selectmen, and I'm sure most of the people here in town know, that currently we have a contract with Jackson for view only. Clearly, for anything to be taped and aired, we'd have to amend that contract. Prior to getting to all that, I guess we have to figure out what you want aired, how much time you're looking for. You know, are you looking for a particular time slot, kind of a thing? You know, we got to figure out what we're going to even put into a contract as we go forward. So I'd have to put that back onto you guys now. Then.
Well, we want all the Jackson soccer games aired.
That's I'm sure there's stuff we can do. So, we are open to the town is you know. Let me back up a little bit. 4 years ago, I came before you guys and I kind of explained how the airways work. Each town has the right to produce and put things out over the airways on their own channel, whether that's channel 3, channel 200, or whatever they want. It's a contract between each town and Time Warner. So you could do this all on your own without Conway involved at all.
Our own channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Could you do that with the money that you have? No. Okay, just that's how it works. You know, you clearly need to have some resources behind putting anything out over the air.
What would that cost? I mean, just
well, it all depends what you want. What would happen if you go through the country, you'll see on most public access channels, you see a blue screen.
Right.
And that's a result of that town either not taking their resources and putting it towards production, or they just don't have the money to do it. So, you know, I mean, we've all gone on vacation, we've all flipped around in hotel rooms and found a local channel somewhere, and it's usually a calendar with some music behind it, and that's it. Conway, we spend a lot of money on community television. We contract with Valley Vision. They are our contractor by choice and have been forever. Although there was some gray areas years ago as to what each entity's responsibility was, but Conway owns the airways that are in the geographic town of Conway. So we decide what's put out over those airways. If Jackson, for example, wants to view what we're showing, which you guys have entered into a contract to see that, then we tell that, Time Warner to send them the signal. Send Jackson the signal, and those people can see it. You could do that all on your own. You could have your own station, but again, you don't have the money for it. Madison kind of does something similar. They take all of their franchise fees and they put it towards what they call Madison TV. I think the acronym is MAD TV, although I'm not sure. Did they get in trouble for using that?
I think they had to stop using it.
I think they had to go. I think they got in trouble for using that. So they take all of their money and they put it towards production. And Conway and Madison had an agreement for years that they were going to get a time slot, which happens to be Mondays, and they were going to show whatever they produce on Mondays. And then the rest of the week, Conway takes the channel back and shows what we pay for. So again, we hire.
So you just buy into that time slot, basically.
Yeah, theirs is a little bit different. They've got a 24-hour slot. They take all of their money and they put it into production. There really wasn't anything left over for them. So we are currently charging them the same amount of money that you guys are paying in order to belong into the system. It's a little bit of a hardship on them because they're actually using tax dollars to fund this a little bit. You folks are still living within your franchise fees money, so you don't need to raise and appropriate tax dollars. You have money in your account from franchise fees that would pay for this. Although how you do that's your own business. Okay, you know. So the town of Conway, again, you know, we spend X amount of dollars producing shows. Valley Vision also goes out and fundraises, and substantial amount of fundraising they do in sports shows and other things, and that makes up their entire budget, which is around $150,000 or so. Okay, clearly Jackson couldn't do something like that, you know. So when we heard that you guys were interested in getting involved with us, again, we think it's a great idea. You know, we would like to, you know, have you guys, you know, film stuff, and we'll figure out how we're going to do that. We would get it out over the airways for you. You know, there's certainly questions as to, you know, who would do the filming, whether, you know, this gentleman here would continue to do it and end up working for Valley Vision, or how that, we'd have to come up with a plan on how that's all going to come down. Our thought is simple, that we would come up with a time slot for you guys, and that would belong to you. So every week, you know, the people in Jackson could say that, you know, if they want to watch their government shows, it's going to be in this time slot. Now, in my mind, that we would also give the station manager the opportunity to replay that during the week to fill slots. The one thing that we won't do is give you a time slot that's going to interfere with our live TV shows, because as you know, we're producing, and Conway's paying for a lot of live sports events. So let's say that you wanted, you know, a Friday night, your meetings are typically Thursday?
Yep.
So let's say you wanted to get things out over the airways on Friday, because it's the freshest information, you want to get it out to your public. You know, we're not opposed to giving you a time slot in that area, but we're telling you right up front, if there's a live event coming up, we're going to take your time slot away, and we're going to put the live event out there. Our mind is more like a Freiburg. They send everything out in Sunday. They have a time slot on Sunday that belongs to them. It never interferes with anything live that we've done, right?
Not so far, no.
But again, that's something that we think we can negotiate, and I probably, whoever you want to appoint, assign, or whatever, you know, we'd come up with, myself, Bill, and the town manager of Conway would come up with a plan as to what you guys are interested in, and what you know, we don't, at this point, we don't even know how much time you need, how many shows you want aired, and things like that, so.
Certainly right now, I mean, the big push is to have our meetings put on. I think that's, you know,
All meetings, or just the selectmen's meetings?
just the selectmen, right?
Are you filming anything else other than this meeting?
We do film the planning board occasionally, but
We're doing planning, ZBA, and conservation,
That's what you film currently?
and broadcast live.
So you guys would have to come up with, you know, an estimated time that you think would be fair to say, this is how much we think we're going to produce every month, you know, or at least every week or every other week or something the station manager can work with to try to figure out, you know, when we would offer you some slots, you know.
I think our thoughts were pretty simple on this too, and you may or may not know the background. We typically appropriate a set amount of money at our annual meeting, and this year there was an amendment, and the citizen wanted to up that amount by $5,000 with the understanding that that amount of money added to what we currently were sending for the right to watch what you were producing and putting on, would be able to get us our selectmen's meetings aired on the channel in some way, shape, or form. So that's the amount of money that we're working with. So I think it would be easy for us to come together and we'd be backing into it with, what does $5,000 get us?
Right.
Type of thing. And
That's-
so you'd say, well, if you produce it and you provide us with a tape, here's what 5,000 will get you.
Right.
That-
Okay.
That kind of discussion.
Keep in mind, regardless of what the hours are, let's say this gentleman over here, I assume he's getting paid.
Yeah.
Let's say that he continues to film, you pay him, or my guess is that it would revert to Valley Vision, would end up paying him. And then Valley Vision's got to produce, turn around and do production costs back at the office to get that out over the airways.
Right.
You know, there's also overhead involved. It's not just their time, it's the fact that we have all this stuff, you know. I think in the last year alone, we've spent, what, $40,000-$50,000
On new equipment?
on new equipment and things like that. I mean, there's overhead involved in all this, you know, and upkeep. And Conway, for example, we put aside, out of the revenue that we create, we put aside about 40-50 grand a year in capital improvements. We also have an account from Time Warner of approximately $110,000 or something like that for equipment.
Right.
So, you know,
Through the Jackson, I mean, through the Conway,
Through Conway's
Yeah.
agreement with them.
what happens is when we negotiated a contract with Time Warner, again, you know, we have a little bit more clout in the sense that we're so much bigger.
right.
You know, we generate about $145,000 a year in revenue. And I think you guys are around 15 or so. Do you remember what your revenue is?
It's about right.
15?
$15,000 a year we get.
Pretty good guess, huh?
Franchise fees.
Pretty good guess. That was a 4-year-old memory, by the way, when I looked into it years ago. So, you know, we take some of that money, we put it aside for capital, but at the same time, when we negotiated our contract, we negotiated $110,000 worth of money out of Time Warner just for capital equipment. And we negotiated 3 or 4 live fiber feeds into the town and so on and so forth. So we can do live at the town hall, the Ham Arena, the high school, and is that it?
You talked, we can, yeah,
We're gonna do
the
the
high
rec center.
school, you've talked about town hall and maybe the library.
Yeah. So, you know, because we have a little bit more, you know, clout, we were able to say, you know, if you want to do business in our town, this is what we want. And they did it. So, but at the same time, we also clarified who owns the airways within the town of Conway. And again, that geographic area. And so what we've done is we've said to Time Warner that if these other towns like yourself get on board, and then we have access to 2 channels. So if for some reason down the road you guys just started producing a crazy amount of stuff, really wanted to put stuff out there, and we needed to go to another channel, we have the right to do that. You know, we have all sorts of stuff in our contract with them to, in my mind, to bring the sending towns, and what I mean by that is anybody that goes to the high school is really what the towns were based on. We can do a lot of growing within the community to get things out over the airway. That was our intent, was to really to get everybody involved in the community. What happened is that everybody kind of backed out of that, and they said, well, we just want to kind of watch. We don't really want to produce anything, we just want to watch. So we amended our plans a little bit, but we left everything open in the Time Warner Conway contract to allow it to happen later on, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And this is later on.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think at the time when I first came here 4 years ago, we were really looking for a percentage. You know, if you collected $15,000, we were looking, you know, if Conway was taking, you know, say 80% of their money and putting it directly into PEG TV, we were kind of looking for the other towns to do the same thing. You know, we didn't, you know, we're not looking for 100%, but we were looking for a percentage. The problem was, in my mind, is that each town kind of does a certain thing. You, at the time, you guys weren't doing anything, and neither was Bartlett, but you only raised 15,000. Bartlett's actually brings in about 56,000. You know, there's a lot of people in Bartlett that don't go to school there, and they're all second homes, but they all have cable, you know. And it varies throughout the rest of the area. At Tamworth and Effingham, they didn't want to get involved at all. They're happy with the blue screen, and that's what they get to see. So I think that your people and yourselves are making the right decision. You know, this is what it's about. You want to show the public what you're doing. It takes a while to get used to that camera. You know, I mean, in Conway, you know, I've been involved in politics for 20 years, and it's always been there. You know, so I mean, I have a meeting, it doesn't bother me at all to have that camera on. As you can see, I talk forever. So, but I think some of the smaller towns, you know, have struggled with that in the past, to be able to have that filmed and put out over the airways. And I'm glad to see that you guys are jumping on as the right thing to do. So,
Right. What if we wanted to do something live?
you can't.
I'm sorry?
You probably cannot. It's a lot to do something live. You would, let me back up a little bit. You would have,
If we could give you a live internet feed.
if you could give us a live internet feed.
You mean you feed us something live of the internet and then we broadcast it live?
Yes. I mean, right now, this is being broadcast
Right.
live. I mean,
I would have to look into that. We haven't tried that before. All of our live stuff is, we have, you know, what we kind of call a head end at each of these locations that Time Warner installed for us. So we haven't actually broadcast live from a live internet stream. But I can look into it.
Done them live from the office?
this is live. Right?
No, I'm talking to Bill. Have you ever done live from the actual office?
From Valley Vision?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but we've got a head end there.
Right.
So
So he would have to stream it into the office and then go out that way.
Yeah, I'd have to see if I could take
If you have
it.
sufficient download, if I mean, I presume you have more than adequate download capacity.
Well, we don't have a server,
You don't need one.
but we haven't.
It's something to
understand
explore because, you know, there's not, one of the things I think people would prefer is seeing things live.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do on Thursdays at 5 o'clock, I don't know. But
Well, the only problem with us broadcasting something live, a meeting live, is that we never know how long it's going to last.
Right.
So when I make a schedule out in advance and I say, this is going to be on at 7 o'clock and then the Jackson Selectmen run 3 hours, you know, do I cut the Selectmen off or do I?
well, maybe that'd be part of the contract.
Yeah. He says yes. All right.
And like today, we had to change the schedule suddenly.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. I think that would be hard to do, you know, because he can't be very flexible on that.
The
Not
other thing is
terribly.
too, is it takes a lot of resources to do live. You know, typically, we have somebody tape something, and then they bring it back to the office. Bill, when he comes in the next day, he goes through whatever production he's got to do, and he sends it out during the schedule. But football games, for example, you know, there's 4 or 5 people involved in that to get a live game out. You know, there's a lot of infrastructure to do that. And
we broadcast the sea race live. We had, you know, cameras and.
Yeah.
you're broadcasting it out to the internet, though, right?
Yes.
So you've got some Wi-Fi capability somewhere.
Our hardware, yeah.
Yeah. So
So I think there's potential here with our citizens wanting more in the way of opportunities to broadcast out from Valley Vision and telling us they want us to spend more of their resources to do it. And I think that probably, I don't know, maybe it seems to me like next step would be for us to appoint somebody on this board to maybe continue this discussion with you guys and really get an understanding of what we currently do.
Yep.
What we can do and can't do for the amount of money that we have to contribute this year.
Right.
And see how we match up.
Yeah. And what you guys want.
Right.
What they want to see.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, what I've heard is that people want to see the selectmen's meetings.
Okay.
I know that, and so our contract is specific that we end up with this live video stream of selectmen's meetings, and then they're archived on our website. But we have a number of residents in town, and certainly there was quite a majority that said they wanted to see this run on Valley Vista if possible too.
Great,
So
great.
maybe us kind of maybe
Mhm.
designating somebody on the Board of Selectmen to meet with you or both of you or
I
whoever's
would think it would have to be me, Bill, Earl, someone from here. I don't know, who your other guys are that are involved, and it sounds like you have been doing some stuff already, so.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I think that would be willing to do a one-year contract, going forward. Ultimately, we would like a long-term contract, and the reason I say that is selectmen change every year. And, we're all making commitments to make this better, and it costs money to do that, and we certainly don't want, other selectmen to come in next year that say, oh, you know what, we're not interested in doing that way. So, like we've told.
Contract, you think?
Huh?
How long?
Well, I mean, our ultimate goal is we want about a 5-year contract. In fact, we would have been coming to you pretty soon with a 5-year contract for view only, because we were waiting for Madison to finally jump on board. And we wanted to have kind of all the contracts together with, I think we got five towns now, and so we wanted to kind of do that all together.
Do you think it's doable with $5,000? I mean, to get us a time slot, and maybe a Sunday show?
I think it's definitely doable. I'm concerned with some live stuff because clearly that costs more. You can continue doing your live stuff the way you're doing now.
Yeah.
And then for the people who are not interested in looking at on the internet, they would get to see it on Valley Vision.
I mean, one thing we kind of discussed here with, if he was to provide me with a DVD or a tape or something like that, once he does that for me, I already know how long it is, and so I can give you a much more concrete, exactly, than if I was saying, look, we're going to stream it live, and then I'm going to have to cut you off at a certain time.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that, so I think there's plenty of room here for us to kind of figure out a fair agreement moving forward on how we match it up and add some more resources to your pool and get some more.
And doing a one-year contract will also give us a better understanding for next year's season as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it sounds like you got a few dollars to play with, but I would suggest that you keep some of that money for capital money. If you're gonna, I'm not sure who provides your cameras now, but Conway, in our contract with Valley Vision, we don't allow them to use Conway's equipment outside of Conway.
Right.
So, and that again goes back to why they do fundraising and they do sponsorship, because they also have some of their own equipment as well. Right. So, if it turns out, clearly you've got some nice stuff here, and whoever bought it, I don't know, but
stuff.
There are towns across the country that buy junk, and
Shall remain nameless.
Yeah, shall rename it, nameless. And the quality's no good, the sound's no good. We're going to insist that that stuff is at a certain level, and I believe you said you viewed.
I looked at some of the stuff. I could tell that's a great camera. Yeah. I've owned that camera before, so it's a nice camera. We're going to want things at a certain level, or bill, as I should say, in order to put it out of the airways. So, yeah, you want to keep some of your own money for capital as you move forward in any contract we do. And one thing I can butt in and say, you probably remember this from Freiburg. Freiburg spent a certain amount of money, and the town owns some sound equipment and some camera equipment, and they produce some of their own stuff, and they just give it to us.
Mm-hmm.
They make DVDs, they have the capability of copying DVDs there, so that they give one to Valley Vision, and another set stays in the town office, and another set goes to the library, so that there's 3 different venues that they can do the tape on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually, did you start saving all of our meetings? I know we talked
All the selectmen's meetings I save, yeah.
We made a decision some time ago that all of our meetings are archived now. So you can, at some point, you'll go back 20 years and you'll have that DVD. Nobody thought it was important years ago because you have the minutes of a meeting. And what we've realized is that people want to see that, you know, and that sometimes there's a little chattering going on in the background that has some legal significance.
Right.
So no chattering in the background, you know, it's like, so we keep it all now. And I think it's really good, you know, when something that is not in the minutes is actually picked up on the camera.
Is it just physically archived, or can you access it over a website?
It's just physically archived right now,
archived.
although that might change with minutes.
So I think that would take probably a ton of bandwidth to put it somewhere.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're open to whatever. We probably, I mean, I don't know when people expect things to get out over the airways, but the wheels of government don't necessarily work terribly fast, but we can. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be nice for us to kind of make this an action step that shows progress between this meeting and next meeting, and have some updates, and have we met, have we talked, how far along are we, do we understand a little bit more, and just show progress.
Right. My guess is that, you know, Earl and Bill and I mean, you know, Earl's got some ideas as to how he wants to format a contract. Then, you know, he clearly his objective and my objective is to protect the town of Conway and in our geographic area, and so.
And if we do match up and strike some sort of an agreement that allows us to contribute, the sooner we get that out there, the sooner our citizens can see value in it for them, and then that's certainly probably increase the likelihood that people are supportive of a 5-year contract. I mean, as you know, ultimately it's the citizens that run the town.
So the big thing we need for you is amount of time, right?
Yeah, just if you could, your representative, whether he's on this board or maybe that gentleman there, has a rough idea of, you know, I know that you guys meet every 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
You know, how often? First and third of the month.
Yeah.
How often you meet? How many? You know, I know it varies tremendously, but roughly, if you could aggregate over the course of a year, how long does each meeting last? Like this Conway Selectmen, I can say generally speaking, over the course of a year, their meetings will last about 2 hours a meeting. I know that you probably have some meetings that go 20 minutes and others that go few hours.
Yeah.
20 minutes?
Is that, no chance of that? Okay, all right, well, I apologize.
They run the town, so.
Comment, maybe.
Okay, all right.
In Conway, we're lucky. We got a town manager that kind of does everything. We just show up and vote and
Yeah,
sign
there you
things.
go.
And you guys actually have to.
So I would,
do stuff.
for me, I would just get a rough idea of
Sure.
what you want covered and how long
Right
that
in the
lasts.
2.5 hour range, roughly.
Is that right? Okay,
Roughly.
yep. I was guessing 2 hours.
You can kind of iron out as
Right.
we appoint somebody to kind of continue this
Yep.
discussion. So this is.
So right now, is it basically, we're just talking about the selectmen or?
Well, you know, Hank is contracted to videotape our meetings.
Yep,
So,
So
Like to keep
so
them
you,
yeah,
I'm
well, that's
sorry.
fine with us.
Are you Hank?
Yeah.
How long has Hank been involved in?
Well, about a year, hasn't it?
I was doing it for free for about 2 years, and then I finally got the contract with them for about a year.
So you probably have a rough idea how many hours you've been spending. If I assume you're billing somebody for something, and
Yeah, about
so
two and a half.
yeah, Frank's, Hank's dad is Frank. You had your hand up, Frank.
Well, I was going to ask, I mean, you know, if we're giving you the content, you know, what's the cost to, you know,
Well-
more than 2 hours? I mean, let's say there was a,
4 hour meeting?
or let's say, I mean, quite seriously, let's say there was a soccer game that we were able to, maybe they want, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we're giving you content, how does, incrementally, how does the cost go up if, between 3 hours of content versus 12 hours of content?
well, I guess before I answer that, I would have to ask the question: is it your intention to have this gentleman here stay working for you, or would he ultimately be part of that $5,000 and say, let's say Valley Vision had him down here taping? You know, which direction were you planning on going?
I think ultimately, we weren't thinking any further than having him still working for us.
Okay, so of your,
And providing
so,
content, if that was possible. We didn't even know how, like you said, how does this equipment match up?
so you're already allocating something in your
That's-
budget for him?
That's right.
Right.
Okay. And,
X amount.
okay, so,
We're not taping, I mean, so.
you know
We
what?
probably want it on a tape form, so there'd be some cost.
Or DVD, yeah.
That's not taped at all right now, that's just,
Hard drive.
It's
The hard
a
drive.
DTE.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there'd be some incremental cost to create media for you,
Yep.
but that's not that.
As a content expert, his head's nodding, so I imagine there's a way to do all this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can provide us with a DVD, is
Yeah.
that reasonable?
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Great.
so we'd have to work that out as to how,
I think what Frank was saying was that, you know, if we have one slot for selectmen's meetings, what if we wanted to show something else? You know, that, do we have any flexibility to add
you
something?
could, we'll give you a time slot.
Just give us a time
You
slot.
put whatever you want in
I
there.
would think so.
You
Yeah.
could have someone playing basketball for 3 hours or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Our thought is we'll give you a time slot. You can do whatever you want it, up to the point of that $5,000, you know, because clearly, again, you know, someone's gotta tape it, Bill's gotta work it, and that overhead that we're talking about, you know, which is kind of soft money, and I'm not sure we're gonna give you a number on that. We're just gonna say, we're just gonna take all your money. No.
That raises the issue if we're doing more than just selection. If the town is doing more than just selection, we need some kind of governance to say, okay, if we want to do a soccer game, who decides we should do a soccer game?
And so we've kind of opened the door here for continuing the conversations. I think our next step is to kind of appoint a representative to meet with you and Earl, or all three of you, or somebody, and really get down more to brass tacks so we understand what our options are for what we have for resources.
One thing you should maybe talk about is if you want to do more than selectmen, like soccer games and things like that, do you want us to do them, or would you like these gentlemen to do it? And obviously, you know, if these gentlemen do it, you know, you're going to take some of the 5,000 out to pay, you know.
Right. Yeah, we'll get that
Okay.
worked out before we meet, and
Okay.
Sounds good.
we'll get back a hold of you guys once we figure it out.
Figure out who's gonna be your rep there, and we'll make some contact and
Okay.
do that. And any other
Anybody else have any other
Questions
questions,
for him?
comments?
You're the one that drove this whole thing.
Come on.
You got anything to add?
You got anything to add?
No, I know you got the one, but.
I think, my name is Sarah Phillips, and I think the only thing is that if the meeting could be in a time slot so that if you film it on Thursday today, that it would be aired before the next selectmen's.
Oh,
meeting.
absolutely.
Yeah, easily,
In that
yes.
time.
The only
Probably the same
reason-
slot every week.
Yeah, it'll be the same
Right.
slot every week. The reason we were thinking, like Freiburg, for example, has the Sunday slot, we were thinking in that range, is because Friday's pretty busy.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of sporting events going on, and
And by Thursday to Sunday, you got time to edit.
Yeah.
anyways.
Right.
he would have to edit on Friday and get it out on the weekend, but
That works good, Sunday works good.
Yep.
the, you know, when we did our survey, when I got involved with Valley Vision years ago, we did a big survey. It was, I forget how many things, we sent like 5,000 things out or something, I can't remember what it was. And it was amazing what people wanted. I mean, clearly they wanted government meetings. That was, you know, everybody likes those for whatever reason. And then second to that was live sporting events. There was a question on the survey, would you support the live sporting events? And that was, wasn't that like 90-something% of the people that responded wanted the high school sporting events in there?
Sports.
And, you know, we've been progressively working on that project. In fact, we just finally, after a 2-year struggle of trying to find the correct wireless equipment for the football games,
Finally got it.
we finally found something that we felt was reliable. So going forward, we were going to see multiple cameras down on the field, as well as some up in the stadium. At the basketball, do we have 3 at basketball now?
3 at basketball.
3 at basketball, 3 at the Ham Arena.
Now 4 at
and it's all
football, 3 or 4.
Yeah, we'll have at least 4 at the football games. So, and it's all live. And we're, you know, the feedback from that's been tremendous. You know, and I know the local businesses were really excited about it because they want to be able to advertise, come down and watch a Kennet game and have dinner and do
Say
that.
the Jackson's local businesses advertise?
Or sponsor. I don't know if any from Jackson do. Do we have any from Jackson? I have to look at our list. I'm sure we must have a couple. Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly.
Yes, just for information, prior to this young gentleman taping, I would bring my camera.
Thought I remember
and
that.
I taped. So I do have them on a disc, and I will gladly donate them to the town of Jackson.
Make copies for yourself.
Oh, I've got a second set. But I mean, just to see past meetings, if you needed something for your time slots at 2 a.m. or something. But I have previous boards that I did myself prior to the town of Jackson hiring someone for 2 years.
Well, this is great, I think we
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right, that's
good
great.
start here, and so somebody's going to be contacting you here pretty soon, I think. once
Okay,
we figure
terrific.
out who we want to designate to follow through with.
Well, this was our intent, and again, you know, we were hoping that we'd love to see the other towns jump in as well, and, you know, and at that point, we'll probably reconfigure how we do a lot of things, but for now, we'll just grab a time slot somewhere that'll belong to you guys, and, you know, do what you can, so.
We'll be in touch.
Terrific.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. You got my number now, right? In case you.
Boy, do I have your number. I do, yes.
Okay, well, you can get it from the town.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody interested in serving on that?
You need somebody who knows what they're doing. I'm not it. I'm not gonna do that. It's deeper than I'm getting into.
Well, I'd be happy to follow up on that.
Well, can't you? Well, I'm not trying to dump it on you. There's gotta be somebody out here that knows what they're doing.
Right. Well, I think it needs to be
One of us.
driven by the
Driver's
contract at this point, so that we're the ones entrusted with, you know, moving the town's best interest.
We'd love to have input, though, if anybody wants to join us and take a little input. but-
Here's what I see coming back is really a clear understanding of what our options are, and then the three of us to have a good, solid conversation about what those options are, and get some input, and then find a way to move forward this year with increasing this.
I just can't. I don't doubt anything you said. My only question is, there's got to be somebody here that knows what's going on that can bring that back to you without you going and me going to that meeting. Because all we're going to do is go ask what are our options. He's listed about 50 of them.
Yeah.
And go get those options and bring them back. But I don't think it has to be one of us. It means somebody that's interested. The filming guy can go do that.
Right. Hank would certainly probably be involved sooner rather than later. I'm happy to get some documentation from them and then bring it back. And I think maybe there could be a committee with some form, that a group of people that have interest that could come together and kind of hash it out, if that's what the selectmen want. I think that would probably be a good way forward.
Mary?
Yeah, there are a lot of people in this town that do not have TVs or don't want to get into watching this at night. And I think that it would help the politics of the town and have people understand a lot better if they saw what was going on at the town meetings or selectmen's meetings, instead of it just kind of be what the newspaper prints in somebody's letter.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
I would be also interested in doing the, like the soccer game or something like that. We'll see.
Well, we've learned you got quality equipment that they wouldn't have a
right.
problem with, so that's a great first step, and we already have a working agreement with you, so we'll be able to figure that out, I think.
Okay.
I would just interrupt.
Go ahead.
I would recommend the more we keep it local in terms of the production side,
Yeah.
vis-a-vis Hank, the better off we'll be. That he seemed to be very much negotiating, so I was sort of waving you, don't give up the ship yet, because I think you'd get a lot more if we keep it here.
Well, and it sounds like that's what's going on in Freiburg.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Madison.
Yes.
And Madison too. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. Well, I think your dad's out there negotiating for you.
Right now.
From the sound of things out in the hallway, but I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right.
All right, moving on to board openings. What do you got for us?
The packets in there underneath the building go beyond the building permits. I just put those in for FYI. This
Town meeting.
right there.
Right there. Well, this is for the assistant
The deputy fire
deputy
ward.
forester. Yeah.
Your appointments are the next sheet.
Next one, there we go.
And attached to that are letters of interest from different people and different.
So there was questions at the last meeting about just what that sheet
And Jeanette redid it with what,
had.
between the conversation she had with the conservation chair and the ZBA chair and trying to figure out the planning board. The planning board on the website shows that Scott and Frank don't expire until 2016. We don't know how that information got there or if they have already said that they were gonna re-up, so those positions aren't open. But they would like to move up an alternate to fill the remainder of Ray Abbott's term through 2014, and then that would make 2 alternate positions open.
Okay, so 2 alternates from the planning board.
So, was Jeanette at odds with the 2016 date of those 2?
We don't have
board members?
any
Is that-
appointment papers for beyond 2013 for those 2 particular people. I don't know if that was decided amongst themselves and not communicated effectively, or what that was.
Well, it's the selectmen that made that approval. So, if we haven't approved it, then
We don't have appointment papers for those 2016 expiration dates at this point. I emailed Scott to get some corroboration as to who authorized the change on the website. Because technically Jeanette is the one that lets them know who's been appointed
And
and
what was
their,
his reply?
yes. I haven't gotten one yet,
Oh,
so,
when did you email?
the beginning of the week.
Okay.
He had emailed that he didn't know who really changed the website, so I don't know where the information came from.
Okay.
Scott.
Yeah.
So, no appointments have been made yet.
That's right.
Seats that are up will be up
That's right.
until you appoint someone new.
That's correct.
So the website was incorrect. Because the website shows reappointments.
Well, I think that Jeanette seems to be pretty thorough. I was starting to say earlier that I had, after the meeting, agreed with Ella that I would call her and have a conversation about this because Frank and Larry seemed to feel that what we were presented with at the last meeting wasn't their understanding of what they had for openings, and I wanted to figure out a way to kind of marry up everybody's understanding of what was open. And she felt like she had a good, clear understanding of what was open and what wasn't.
Well, aren't terms specific in time?
Yes.
Yes.
And isn't there a record as to when those individual seats were appointed?
Well, I think
Yes.
that official record is with the town clerk. Am I right about that? Or?
And we have a copy in our files, and that's why I said that the expirations of the planning board terms, we only have them being appointed through 2013, the 2 individuals
Yeah.
involved.
Right.
We don't know where the 2016 timeframe came that showed up on the website. That's the question that we put out that we haven't had a response for yet.
Well, we've got the official documents here, and so I guess it wouldn't bother me if either one of those people had an opportunity to kind of explain what their understanding is of their terms. I mean, but at the same time, you know, again, Jeanette seemed to be pretty accurate here and very thorough and comprehensive in her effort to make sure this was current. So,
Between the 2 of us, we went back over what we had for appointment papers to make sure we hadn't missed something. And that's what we had come up with.
right, okay. So really, the step that I wanted to see happen, or I guess really the 3 of us talked about, was making sure we had an accurate idea here of what our needs were with the expired terms, and then to post those openings publicly. And last year, We did it in the Conway Daily Sun, and I personally think that's a great use of funds, so that everybody, we've done due diligence to get out into the town, you know, beyond a posting in a hallway, just what the openings are to generate interest, and then seek letters of interest, and then have candid conversations about the most qualified candidates to fill the posts.
So at this point, the positions that you want me to list as open are the 2 regular planning, 1 to the remainder of term, and 2 alternates.
I think if we have regular openings, you know, it would be certainly, I believe it's the selectmen's responsibility to fill regular openings and alternate openings, and it certainly makes all the sense in the world that somebody's been serving as an alternate attending meetings, that they end up taking one of those regular openings. So, but that's I'm not necessarily
It's like,
set
I
in
don't
stone.
want to
I
send
think
something out for an ad
right.
and not have it, I don't want to upset the apple cart and upset the planning board chair as well as you guys, because I'm not putting forth what is truly open.
I think we should put forth what is truly open.
Which would include the 2 that have somehow...
2 regular seats,
Yeah.
right, exactly. That's exactly what I think we should be posting publicly, is everybody's term that's up. If you're an alternate and your term is up, then we've got an alternate opening. If you're a regular member and your term is up, then we've got a regular member opening. And that's not to say that somebody would apply and the alternate would move up, and then there's actually an alternate opening that would be offered. That's fine too. But that's what I unless somebody, I don't know, how do you guys feel about it, Bill? How do you?
Well, I sure wouldn't want to post anything except what's the actual opening. Wow.
Yeah.
Right. But the question you bring up about the alternate, were you saying that you post what's actually open, but you don't approach the alternate first to find out if they want the opening, or is that something they do through your posting? Is they can say, well, I've been the alternate for 5 years, why didn't you ask me?
Right, and that would be like a separate step in the process. I think it's...
The planning board does have a nominating committee to find people that have the qualifications to be on the planning board to nominate for those open positions.
We do?
They formed one.
That was, you mean at the last meeting?
Yeah.
That was just to nominate the new chairman.
Okay, then I misunderstood that.
I think we do just what you said, and
Posters.
So I guess my question is, since Frank's one of the ones that changed to 2016, when did you and Scott get reappointed is the question.
Sorry?
When did you and Scott get reappointed to the positions on the planning board? Because the paperwork that we have in the office, in both the clerk office and my office, say that the terms expired in 2013. But on the website, it says 2016. And that's the confusion at this point.
I would have to defer to the people who maintain the planning board website, which I think is Phil or Lee.
Okay.
That's how I'm, well.
I think this is part of the clerk's job, and she's an elected official.
And she didn't send the information to them, that's why.
Right.
She did send an email asking them to not post positions as filled unless the information comes from her.
And that makes sense, and the selectmen fill the position, so I think we've got the official document here that we go by as far as what we post, what's open, whether somebody's put something else together and put it on a website or posted it somewhere else or whatever. It's not an official listing of terms that are open. So there are 3-year terms on the planning board. Is that correct, Frank?
Yes, and the ZBA. So you have the open position for ZBA there as well?
Yeah. So if it's 2016, that would mean that you were re-upped this year, and certainly
makes sense.
We didn't do that.
Is that what? No,
So
That's what's on the website
yeah,
at this point.
so clearly that's in error.
Jerry?
With respect to the alternate moving up, I have no objection to that concept, but it would seem to me that the proper procedure would be for the alternate to apply for that position the way anybody else would.
That's a good point. That's what can be done.
They may not want
Does that make sense, Bill? So the alternate then?
Just explain to me, I guess, if, you know, assuming you have 2 alternates for the position, is it incorrect to assume they would want to be a permanent one?
No. I think it would only be correct to appoint from a list of people who apply for the position. They may or may not be alternates, and that may or may not give them an advantage in getting appointed. But it would seem to me that whoever wants to be a regular planning board member would request that. And if for example, if an alternate applied and didn't get the job, then he might say, as a secondary, I'll apply for both permanent and alternate. So, in other words, anyone could apply for both positions.
It's a philosophy, I guess, and neither one is incorrect, I guess.
Well, usually during voting, if they don't have enough standing members, they go to the alternates. They go by the when their term ends. Right. So I would think you'd probably do a priority off of that. I would think it would be the fair thing to do. So if you had multiple people trying to fill 2 seats, and you know you're going to have to choose 4 people, you give priority to the one who's been in there the longest. Would that not make sense? No.
You might want to speak to the chair, you know, Scott, about which alternates attended meetings, which alternates appear to be more interested, and you know, at least you know, some alternates may indeed not want to be full-time.
Absolutely.
It would seem to me that an alternate should not be appointed to a permanent seat if they don't apply for it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that at all. I may have misunderstood what you said. I don't think you appoint someone who doesn't want the job.
That's right. And last year, we had a nice spreadsheet that actually was provided to us by the planning board that showed regular member attendance at meetings, alternate attendance at meetings, and we had a really clear understanding of active members versus inactive members. That was really helpful for us to consider when we were looking at these openings in the best candidate, because we had more interest in people becoming members of the planning board than we had openings, so we really had to kind of talk it out, which may or may not happen again this year, but no, I think you're right. I think if for an alternate to move into a regular position, we would expect them to show an interest. We would assume they would show an interest, or they wouldn't be hanging out all this time as an alternate, but we would want that.
And maybe they should be advised of that. You know?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another good point. We want to communicate that to them in case they're not watching live right now.
Right.
We want them to know that. That's a good point. So if we've got an official document here that identifies what we've got for openings, I think we're ready to post.
Yeah. Right.
That's good. At least, and I think this applies to both planning board and the ZBA, but maybe more for the ZBA. You know, it takes a while to understand what the boards do, and the advantage of the alternate is that they already understand the processes and procedure, and can be more effective, you know, on day one. So I mean, I would 2 equal people. I would, if I were making a decision, I would probably want the alternate.
There's letters of interest that was attached to that sheet as well.
Yeah, I had one from Huntley to decide, should you decide to establish a committee to study the question of whether a building inspector should be a town employee or a contractor, please consider that I would like to be a member of that committee. That was kind of a different one, but.
Right.
Well, he spoke at the last meeting and wanted to make sure that you guys had it in writing of his interest.
Yeah,
good.
I think that'd be another one that would make all sense, and we'll post publicly if we go that route.
This is from Jeanette about the update on the opening, right?
What have you got in your hands? I can't see it.
I think that was Jeanette's actual first
Yes.
draft on that.
That was what's going on. But there's some letters of, from...
On this one?
No.
It's Sarah Duffy. Please see his attached note. We have 2 alternates that we would like the selectmen to appoint at the next meeting. Can this be done as an agenda item next meeting, which I think is 4/18. Many thanks, and please contact us if any questions.
You know, Sarah's here.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. What you got?
We have 2 alternates for the Jackson Public Library Board of Trustees. 2 recommendations to be elected as alternates.
So you want to add to your alternate list?
Our alternates come up every year and have to be reappointed on an annual basis. So we have 1 new one and 1 repeat.
Is that Ann Lee Doig?
Yep.
Okay, I've got her down as her term ending in 2014. Is that accurate? Or?
No, my understanding was that these were just annual appointments.
Oh, okay. Because she's on our list as serving until 2014 already, so I'm not sure where there's a disconnect. But then you have a second name that you want to serve as an alternate also?
Right, Brian Walker.
Okay. And Brian's currently on a board, isn't he?
I think so.
He's on the zoning board of adjustment with a term that runs until 2015. So, is there a protocol on increasing number of alternates to these boards, or for that matter, number of regular members to these boards? Or?
Regular members probably set, but...
Yeah. How come you guys want to add another alternate, just out of curiosity?
No, it's not adding a new one. We had an alternate, and like I said, they are, from my understanding, was they're appointed on an annual basis. So we typically run with 2 alternates.
Okay, we have just 1 down there, that's why.
I would have expected to see an open cell here with a vacant spot, like we're looking at for
Right, okay.
an alternate.
So we only have 1 down, you need 2?
Yes, we had 2 last year. As I said, we typically run with 2.
All right.
So is that, Bob, is that information from Jeanette as well?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jeanette's sheet. Now, as an example, there's a vacant alternate, and it's so noted on here for the zoning board of adjustment.
Right.
But there isn't a vacant alternate spot on the library trustees. And
Okay.
there's just Ann's name there for 1 alternate, and her term doesn't end until 2014, according to this record. So that's why I'm wondering.
Okay, I'll talk to Jeanette about to clarify that, but
typically you've had 2 alternates.
yes, for Denise Sachs, who was then elected as she matriculated and was elected as a trustee at the town meeting and town voting, so she's no longer an alternate, and we needed a replacement.
And you really feel you need 2 alternates, so we should probably put a vacant spot on there. And
you did it right.
Well, I kind of wrote vague. I also don't want to tear this up here without going through Jeanette too, because she's the record keeper. So either way, if she missed it or the chair thinks there needs to be another one, I think totally supportive of that.
So do we want to check on Ann and find out whether her term expires, and just nominate Brian for his alternate? It doesn't hurt to, I suppose, but...
Right.
We just want to make sure our records are right here.
Right,
That's
and
important.
so do you run with a separate set of bylaws or anything like that for these committees, or is there any kind of formal document anywhere that explains how many alternates belong with each committee, or?
I believe our trustee bylaws do have the fact, that there were 5 library trustees, and then, does that agree with your records?
And yeah, just got it, yeah.
Because we have Denise as a member already.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, so.
Okay, so that was updated accurately, after the town election, so that's great.
And so your bylaws also say 2 alternates?
I would assume so.
Okay.
The Board of Adjustment does specify a number of alternates.
Yeah, okay. Could you double check that? If your bylaws say that, then that's all we need to say, okay, we gotta get another alternate on here. I don't wanna start moving ahead with stuff if it's gonna contradict what your bylaws say. That would be great.
Sure. Should I send that information to Jeanette?
Yeah, yeah. Jeanette.
Okay.
And we can act.
And if your bylaws also say that the alternates are 1-year terms, that would be helpful to correct or get the date adjusted on here as well.
Can we put this on for the next meeting so we get that straightened out, so there won't be any confusion as to any
Yes,
Very good.
thank you.
Okay.
So are we ready to go ahead and post this then in the paper? I just want to, just before we close off on this.
I'm still going through the papers here that relate to that, so give me a second.
Okay.
We had the health and deputy officer that was recommended as a, Petey was saying that she would stay on to the 7th, and then we could do that after that for the merging the
I didn't know
FEMA
where that
and
stood,
the,
that's why I left it in there.
I'm sorry?
I wasn't sure where that stood, that's why I left it in the map.
Okay, so after, is everybody agreeable to that?
Yes.
Do that, let B handle that till she'll step down
I go to the
after.
meeting with her on the 7th.
Okay, great. And then, again, thank B for all her efforts on that, it's huge.
Right. So we'll go ahead and post that as well, and that won't start until middle of May, right?
Yep. Okay.
Most of these may not start till middle of May, so that's perfect.
And last, I think the last one I got here is from Frank. It says, my understanding that Gino's term expires this month on ZBA. He is interested in continuing to participate, and I support his reappointment. I believe he is only I believe he is the only expiring position on the ZBA and will continue to have one unfilled alternate position. And so that one we can renominate now, I would imagine, right? We wish to.
Well, I think we should, and again, this is what I said last meeting, I think we should post every opening
And this
that
one
we
just,
have.
at least just apply
Yeah.
to that.
Right,
Okay, good.
right.
Alrighty. Any others? You got anything else on this?
That's all I have.
That's all you had? Very good. All set?
John,
Yes. Bill?
Huntley Allen, nice guy, I like Huntley, he's a good plumber, friend of mine. He's applying to be on, he wishes to be on a board.
It's not on a, it was on a committee to work on getting up and running the building code thing. That was,
In my mind, I think that's a conflict of interest. Because don't forget, he applies for permits on a daily basis. We once stated that he does over 100 a year. So I think you need to, when you're in your decision-making process, you need to give that some thought. Like I said, he's a great guy and capable guy, but I just think that's a conflict of interest there. That's the first thing. The next thing is that I don't believe that anyone should be on any committee in the town of Jackson that has instituted a suit against the town. I don't think that's right. If you're going to sue the town that you live in, then why do you deserve to be on our decision-making committees? That's a problem for me. So I need you to think about that when you vote.
Chair?
Not that I disagree with Bill, but I think there's a law that forbids that. In other words, you cannot use a lawsuit or a pending lawsuit as a decision to rule against that individual.
I think we need to research that.
I think I'm just, again, check with your attorney.
Yeah, LGC, I'm sure the LGC.
yeah, LGC would be the first to call on that one, I think. Yeah, let's stay away from the attorney.
I mean, in theory, I don't disagree with Bill, but
Right. Yeah.
I'm asking you to forget about the one and use some common sense.
right. I'll go with that.
So was it decided that my term is up on the planning board? Is
Yours and Scott's need to be
that, okay.
posted.
I should, I mentioned that it's, at least in some parts of the LGC, and elsewhere, it's helpful, it's viewed as being helpful to have at least one person on both planning and ZBA, for obvious reasons, I think. So, if not me, I think you want to think about, and I'm interested in continuing on planning, but if it's not me, I think you want to think about who else on the ZBA take that place. This is a role that, you know, David Uri used to play, used to fulfill, and then I've been fulfilling.
I'm sorry. Your first statement was that the ZBA recommends that someone?
Well, LGC.
LGC also recommends?
And also, I think OEP.
Okay. Again, I have to say, my recollections is the LGC recommends not having that, and that at the very most, that if someone from the zoning board is on the planning board, they should be a non-voting ex officio.
Well, I will ask both of those questions if it's the pleasure of the board.
Thank you.
And we'll clear that up with the LGC, so thank you both.
I checked with OEP as well.
Okay, and I want to get back to the selectmen's meeting.
Sign the town minutes. Everybody have a chance to read them? That. These have been revised.
The back page, the back page is where it should be.
Do we have to take a motion to sign that?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to sign the town minutes for
So
2013.
Second.
All those in favor?
And just a question of process, Jerry's name's on here, so does that mean we want him to come in and sign these?
He does need to stop in and sign. I looked at previous town report minutes, and the select person
Going out.
that was going
That
out
night.
was on the board that night
Okay.
to facilitate the minute.
And I signed the wrong spot. So
Can you get him a call or whatever?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Signed the wrong spot.
Joe?
Signed below my name.
Do you need to create another one of these?
Yeah, you might have to redo that
Photocopy?
page.
Jeanette's gonna have to redo it.
Look what
Just
John
have that
did.
road.
Look what he did.
Hold on. Come on, don't put it in the camera. I apologize. It's just you and me. Just you and me, Jerry. Didn't have my glasses on.
So I think
That's my
else-
excuse.
It's gonna have to be Monday.
All right, that's fine.
Because she's not in till 2 o'clock Monday.
That's fine.
Deputy Forest Warden appointment, signatures needed. That is right here.
I left his address on there because he requested.
Michael
that.
Chapman, Jackson. Gordon Lang signed it already. I guess we need a motion to accept Michael Chapman as Deputy Forest Warden.
Fire warden.
Fire warden, I'm sorry, fire. Yeah. Forest fire warden. Forest fire warden, to say.
So moved.
Apparently.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Forest fire warden. All right, Sarah, you're finally up. Thank you, sir. And Sarah, you wanted a monthly update? Is that what you're looking for? You're suggesting?
I would, my name is Sarah Clemens, and I would like to know the lawsuits that we have pending against the town of Jackson, what the name of the lawsuit is, who the person suing us is, and how much it is costing us if we, monthly, weekly, however, but once a month, an update on these costs or anticipated costs.
I just filed everything, and of course, it's not here, right? Well, I did do that for you, sir. I went back, I went back to the beginning of this year and looked at the bills from our lawyer, Amelia. And I broke it down, and I color-coded it, and everything was real pretty. And of course, I can't put my hand on it, right? Now it gave me a new thing that might be out in my car.
Do you have a ballpark figure?
Oh, here it is, right here. Got it. All right. This was a total from January 1st of this year. Okay, it's a total.
To what?
For each of the pending lawsuits.
To what date? It's from the first, but up to what date?
Up till the last billing cycle, which was April, last week. Okay. First, I'd like to say there are a couple of problems with it. First of all, the bills themselves are not specific to exactly which case. For example, responded to emails. You know, that would be the billing process. Well, I don't know what emails they're responding to. Okay. There were other issues where there would be multiple cases talked about or billed for on one particular cycle. So I kind of divided it in half. I mean, these are rough numbers, okay?
But can we have the name of the lawsuit and who is?
Sure, we have 3 pending.
Okay.
Okay. Frank Benesh's lawsuit, and that was $5,400 roughly. Diane Falsey's lawsuit is $3,300 roughly. Okay. With Diane's lawsuit, that is being taken over by the LGC. We have insurance to cover that, and that was what would be covered by the LGC from pretty much here on out on that. Gino's has just been $90 because that's all we've done is responded to the initial suit with a, I guess, a form letter from Peter, so that was minimal cost. Obviously, that will be different.
And what's the lawsuit called?
Gino's suing the town for the transfer station, non-opening, non-public session minutes being improperly done. Man, what was the other one? Howie Lewis issue, I believe was 3-folded.
I think that's the
end. And
he basically wants to see those 2 major decisions, if I remember correctly, reversed.
Right. Now, Susan Chase issue is also on the docket. That's not really a lawsuit. Hopefully it won't be. But that goes back more than a year, so I didn't go back any further than the beginning of this year. So our lawyers only spent roughly $200 on that this year. But there's been multiple, I have to go back next year to give you a number on that, but that's still on the table. So really 3 lawsuits and a issue, I guess that's what we call it. All right, and I'll try to give it to you monthly if you need to. We'll bring that up to date as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Treasury matters. Warren Shoemaker has resigned or will resign effective June 30th as treasurer. Regretfully so. So we'll have to get the process going to start that up. So.
Yeah, and I think that's clearly a separate issue from board and committee openings, but it's my understanding when you have an elected official step down.
The select board can appoint to fulfill the remainder of the term.
And
then I also put paperwork there because there's a question. He has some questions as to whether or not it should continue to be an elected position or because of the amount of work involved be voted to become an appointed position. And that's something that he would like to speak to you about. And I put the paperwork that Jeanette found on elected versus appointed treasurers and the process to go from one to the other.
Here it is.
And that's fair enough, and I think as an ongoing elected official who has an opinion like that, it's probably really valuable for us to be able to hear that from him.
He was going to stay, but the length of the meeting prohibited him from.
Yeah, I saw him on his way out. And so at the same time, I think that, well, as I remember, that's how I ended up on the school board one is that somebody stepped down. So I was appointed not for the rest of his term, but only until the next town election, where I was then running for the remainder of that term. But in the case of Warren's position, I think his treasurer's position is up for re-election in March.
Right.
So I think first and foremost, and he said he was real flexible with it too, that he wasn't intending on stepping down until we had the thing covered. So my thinking is that we should probably post and see letters of interest for that position through March, but I don't know if you guys have given any thought to it.
I think we have to post it.
I would post it and deal with it, how, whatever the appointment, whatever it works. What happened to you sounds like a reasonable process. I doubt if we can appoint it for the full term of his, I'd do it till the next election.
Well, that's when his term has to be up.
Then it fits
so it'd
in.
be like a 9-month position. But now, what's the stipend for that?
The stipend is $5,000 a year plus, I believe, I don't remember if it's $300 or $500 in expenses. But I don't know how you're gonna break that up.
That should be how much we get, not you.
Well, he's in on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, processing paperwork, deposits,
So,
spreadsheets.
and I think part of his recommendation for turning this into a paid position is that he's spending more time at the job than I don't know, past treasurers, or it's just grown. And so why has it grown? Has it grown because it's been necessary to grow? I was curious as to what other towns do. Not that other towns do it the way it would work best for Bartlett, but I was curious as to like towns that are comparable in size, and they're not. But what does Bartlett do? What does Madison do? Is it an elected position? Is it stipend about the same? Are their guys spending about the same amount of time on this position as Warren says he's been spending? And that's not something for the town selectmen's office staff to look into, but I am curious about that. I don't know. But that's probably a separate issue that we would want to look into for making a decision about whether we would propose to keep this as an elected position or turn it into a paid position. And I think we probably need, what is it, can you give us the cliff notes on that?
Duly appointed.
Or a duly appointed position.
Now, you have the LGC salary surveys for the last 2 years that we have.
That's right.
Those will tell you who has elected and who has appointed.
And treasurers are in there? See, I didn't
Yes.
go any further than clerical staff on that,
Yes.
so. We'll take a look at that.
And again, I thank Warren for all his service, and it's been a pleasure working with him.
He
Well,
makes it easy.
Yes,
He makes it
absolutely.
look real easy with
Makes it look
difficult.
real easy.
And I think part of his willingness to be flexible is that if we get somebody in here, that he's willing to spend some time with that person and get them up to speed on stuff. So I really appreciate that as well. It might be a little premature, but when the time comes, we need to make sure we get a nice letter of appreciation out to Warren. So, maybe a little closer to when we get a replacement in state cabinet. Yeah, absolutely. In the budget, so. So is that what we do? So are we ready to go ahead and post an opening? And should we,
I'd say yes.
should the opening talk about the stipend amount? Or
I wouldn't until we
I don't know
figure
what
out.
you-
leave that out of there for now?
Because we'd have to prorate that.
Right, absolutely.
And that
So
would
just
be dependent on Warren as of finishing his term, so.
seeking letters of interest.
Yeah, letters of interest.
And resume. Okay, great.
All right, next on the agenda is Mirror Lake lamp post replacement. There's a letter here from Sarah Duffy.
Mirror Lake Homeowners Association Board of Directors.
Oh, it's due for one sale for you, huh?
Get around.
I guess the Jackson Fire Department responded to a chimney fire and inadvertently knocked over a lamppost which needs to be replaced. Shouldn't be too much of an issue, I would think.
By the person who had the chimney fire or by us? Has Jay,
Have you talked with Jay about it, or?
No, I don't.
I did say something to Jay when he was in the office, and he said, that's right, I forgot about it. So it's on his radar, whether or not it's close to the radar.
You want me to handle it with Jay?
yeah,
Follow through on
yeah,
that.
because
That'd be
you're
great.
the liaison.
He'll be here tomorrow.
Right in your office
I'll
all
talk
that.
with Jay.
Okay, great.
A couple other items that are on the agenda, just real quickies. I have a quick note here from Joyce Bilger. Is that how you pronounce that? Bilger?
Yeah, Bilger.
I'm so grateful for the kindness of the firefighters and Chief Myers during my recent fire. Each and every one of them was very thoughtful and helpful towards me, and I'm eternally grateful. Signed by Joyce. And I think we've done a great job by those guys.
She did call to say that, and I suggested her putting it in writing so that we could put it in the appropriate personnel files.
I got a letter here from the Department of Safety for Emergency Management Director regarding some radio recipient certification must be completely returned prior to distribution of Motorola XTS 3000 portable radios. Cost of about $3,000. B is the head on that with the emergency management director.
I believe that was applied for by our local emergency management liaison person, June Garno, who is in charge of the hazard mitigation. And I believe it's in B's name because at this point she was the acting emergency management director. It stays with the position. So that's.
So we have to sign this.
I wasn't aware that a grant had been procured for that. I hadn't seen any paperwork. I guess it's through the state, and the state hazard mitigated team is the one who decides which towns get it.
So I guess I need a motion to sign this.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I just want to say that we certainly appreciate B's service in this position as well. It was our understanding that the term had been up since last year, it hadn't been filled. And
Right, but what it is when you're appointed to a position of like that, and it's a position that needs to remain filled, if someone's not appointed, the person that was last appointed remains in that position until such time as somebody replaces her.
But I think that the letters of support to combine those positions recognize that there was a term up, and that might be a better way, not that B wouldn't be eligible or...
Right, but she just would have liked to have known that they were attempting to combine that position. I believe that's all her. She just thought it would have been a courtesy to talk to her before bringing the letter to the town, that's all.
Okay, next on the list is the State Liquor Commission. We have an application here, or not an application, but a letter addressed to the Jackson clerk. Thornhill Management Company Incorporated, DBA Inn at Thornhill and Spa. Gunther Zumler, the president, has made application with the Division of Enforcement of Hotel Cocktail Lounge Liquors License under the provisions of RSA 178:22. This establishment is located at 40 Thornhill Road, Jackson, New Hampshire, pursuant to RSA 541-A:39. The New Hampshire Liquor Commission hereby provides the City of Town Jackson with notice of the application informs you that you may submit data, reviews, comments, or other materials or evidence with respect to a potential issuance of a liquor license. This information will be taken into consideration by the Division of Enforcement and Liquor Licensing prior to its recommendation to the Liquor Commissioner for approval or denial of this license. So I guess it's just an FYI.
I believe traditionally they ask if there's been any issues through that with the selectmen, and we also can ask the police chief if they had any incidences that would be a negative impact on them.
Is this a new license?
It's a new owners. They have to apply if they're new owners.
All right, any other new business anybody has to bring up? All right, old business, again, board policy, we're gonna still deal with that, I guess, at a later time, and job descriptions, again.
Right.
Just keeping it on there, just to prolong it longer, I guess.
Well, we discussed how once we get that office filled, we'll be
gotta get to it.
ready to attack Ella's job description, and I think that, I think Jay's more than willing to work.
And we got some board policies we have to go over as well.
Yeah.
All right, Susan Chase, come on down, if you wish. How are you?
Falling asleep.
Falling asleep, I know, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you for calling me.
I did talk with Brian this week. I got to chat with him for really the first time I've actually talked to him. He's coming up this weekend, and I was going to have another chat with him. I did talk with Peter about the agreement. Did you run this by your lawyer? That was one thing he asked.
I gave it to him, but I was waiting to hear your decision, which you didn't have last week, or your comment on this, and you hadn't done anything about it last 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So I have to go back to him when I find out what you intend to do.
Well, what do we intend to do?
Or start at the beginning. What was your discussion with Brian? May I be privy to that?
Paraphrase. You know, he obviously wants, you know, to put this to bed. I think we all do.
We all do.
We all do.
After 3 years.
I think his position is that, you know, he feels that the pond is his gig. He owns it.
That's right.
He's willing to certainly be responsible if something fails in the pond. And since it's his pond and it doesn't work properly, he's willing, you know, if that something catastrophic fails, if that pond, you know, washes out your property again, certainly he would feel that he would be liable for such an issue.
And he has said that?
He said that to me over the phone, paraphrasing, of course.
If it washes out my property?
Well, I mean, that's the premise here, is the water's coming through that culvert, going through that ditch.
No, I understand. I just wanted to check on your wording.
Okay, again, don't quote me, okay, I'm just paraphrasing, okay? I think on Peter's side is really, you know, there's some concern, Peter has some concern about the fact that, you know, the ditch itself wasn't constructed by the town. You know, you had a private contractor do that ditch.
That's right.
And
I was told by the selectmen to do that. It's in the minutes.
Okay.
Instructed.
Right, and that ditch, it would be very hard for us to be able to guarantee its operation. We didn't construct it, so if it was poorly constructed,
right,
then that certainly can't be our fault.
You're talking about this draft agreement that you supposedly...
I'm not talking about anything, I'm just having the conversations I had with the lawyer and
Mm-hmm.
Brian. Peter thought it would be very hard for us to be able to guarantee that that's going to work forever and ever and ever.
Right.
Because, like I said, we didn't construct the ditch.
Right.
We, you know, we're really not, you know, responsible for the water, I guess. But, you know, if everything's working well, you know, it should, you know, theoretically work properly and function properly and take care of the water the way it's supposed to take care of.
Absolutely, if the pond functions properly.
And that's the thing. So the pond, and I think Brian is willing to accept responsibility if the pond fails.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, this was part of an original discussion I'd had with him, and he said, if the town determines that the pond fails, I said to Burr, you are not going to say that the pond failed because this is your pond. You've gone over all of these plans, et cetera, and said that this was just fine. So I can't envision you saying that the pond failed. And at that point, he kind of didn't have an answer. So that was if that were in the agreement, and who's going to determine that the pond fails? If it overflow and floods my property, I consider that a failure.
I would consider that a failure too.
Yeah.
So we have to define what a failure is.
Right.
Okay. I'm just trying to, it looks like we're going to have, the reason I'm going this way is it looks like this is going to be modified in some form. Right?
Yeah, remember, that isn't anything to do with me. That was something between the town and Brian.
Okay.
It wasn't, it was...
It's my understanding that that draft document was put together to satisfy Brian Shaw's concerns about the work so that he wasn't gonna be held liable for town culvert or ditch or whatever. And that draft document was prepared by Peter, working with the board, and that would be something that Brian would feel is sufficient for him to sign. And then that would get you paid for the work that you did. He was originally going to pay, but then there was an issue around the recommendation for the work, so you ended up involved in the site work, and then he said, well, if that's what you want to do, this is the amount I'm getting for a quote, so I'm hoping.
No, well, I don't have a lot of paperwork with me, but.
Ballpark figure is that, and then us signing that and Brian signing that would get him to a point where he was feeling satisfied to the point where he would be able to pay Sue for the work that was done.
He lost me.
This original draft
Was between the town and Brian Shaw.
Right.
And just at probably a month or so ago, when I was at the meeting here, we said, that's nothing to do with me. And the former selectman said, it's between you're telling Brian that the town approved his plan, gave him permission to dump his water into the culvert. So therefore, has no responsibility now. And it was between the town and Brian. There's no mention of Sue on there. I think that he would pay me and so forth, but that I was not a party to doing anything about that particular document. I had nothing to do with it.
Other than being paid.
Sure, but I mean, I didn't instigate it being drawn up, et cetera.
Right, that's what I said, our lawyer is the one that prepared that with selectmen input.
Right. Are you sure of that? Now that you've spoken to him? Okay, good. There was a question about it at the last meeting as to who had prepared the document.
Right, and I was incorrect in saying that.
Right.
That Jerry had prepared it.
Right.
This was prepared by Peter. So I guess the status of this is I'm going to talk to Brian on Saturday and get this document moved forward. It's probably going to change a little bit because Peter is revisiting this again.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, so, but the idea here is that we're gonna meet with him Saturday. Hopefully Peter will have the document ready and Brian will look at it and we'll try to go forward from there and get him to sign it and get you paid. And
all right, and then you'll get back to me.
Law stays working. I mean, we're not, we're not,
You are, you're doing something.
I'm trying.
I know.
It is, the wheels of progress grind to a stall.
I know, because I was just,
And I appreciate your patience on it.
yeah, but it's getting old. I was going to just suggest that if we didn't do something, say, all right, within the next 2 weeks, maybe we should turn it over to our lawyers.
Yeah.
And so,
mine and yours, or mine and the town's, because it's been 3 years.
Want a recommendation for any language change, that it's something that's been run by Peter and that he sees us not getting into any undue liability issues here.
Right, that was my concern, is the fact, I talked with Jay about it too, because, I was talking about, what kind of issues it would be for as far as him dealing with that, and Peter said, it's not our ditch, we didn't build it, we didn't, so, but, certainly it is the pond, is the holding the water, therefore the water is causing the problem. If the pond fails, that's on Brian's checkbook.
As long as any language changes or additions have been vetted through our town attorney.
Right. And Peter's going through that right now.
All right, well, so once again, this has nothing to do with me. This, you boys are, men, gentlemen, are dealing with the town attorney and with Brian Shaw.
I want to make sure you're kept appraised.
I appreciate it.
And I
Thank
want to
you.
make sure it's working for you.
I don't know if it's working for me or not.
Well, we want to make it work for you.
I appreciate that. So is that it?
That's all I got.
Okay.
Unless you have something you want me to stress or mention or.
No, but when you
add,
do
or-
talk to Peter, I would love to have you clarify my
Sure.
question that I've been asking since day one on the letter that I sent you, the reminder, the email.
Mhm.
Okay, we get down to this paragraph here,
Yeah,
and we get down to the last sentence.
okay, I don't have it in front of me, so you have to.
Oh, right here. It's basically, why can Ann Peterson say, no, you can't put water on my land, and I can't? Which has been the deal all along. We had a plan, to use that culvert number 8, and she said no, way back in 2011, I guess it was, the beginning of 11. She said no because it dumped water over to Great Brook going across her property. And the town engineer said, no, you can't do that. And actually, the zoning ordinance says you can't do that. The driveway ordinance, you can't create a water course where none existed before, even though there was one there. So let's see what he says. I'm interested.
Okay.
And then I'll come back in 2 weeks, is that it? Okay,
John, do you want me to photocopy that so she can retain her memory?
It's an email, I think. she
yeah,
has
I
a
can,
copy.
yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night. Alrighty, any other public comments? Well, last, yes, sir.
I would like to welcome Mrs. Atwell to our first select meeting.
Maybe your last.
She hasn't run screaming yet.
Yeah, because her feet are chained to that chair, probably. Yes, it's great to have you aboard, Julie. We're looking forward to seeing you on Monday.
Yes, yes.
And, yes, yeah.
I usually tell Jay this, and I didn't have a chance since he wasn't here today. The Christmas wreaths that are all around town, I think it's past time they come down. If somebody could just mention to whoever needs to.
I'll talk to him, Kathy.
Yeah, tell Kathy mentioned it, because I made a big deal about it last year.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll take care of it.
Thanks.
Can I force my neighbor to take his Christmas wreath off that's been on for 16 years?
Yeah, but it just thinks it's time for it to come down.
You might be right.
Okay.
They'll last longer.
It might be a fire hazard.
That was on my list,
Great.
things to check off with Jay.
I was gonna tell him quietly, but since he's not here, I thought I'd broadcast it.
Yeah, right, broadcast it, thanks. Any other public comments? Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, that was 2 hours.
Oh, no, no.
I apologize for interrupting so much. I'll try.